And so, my dear ones, welcome into the sanctuary on this, our last Sunday of Love Month. Isn't that amazing how quickly it all passes? And we've had a wonderful sojourn through this thing called understanding love a little bit more deeply and fully and what it's all about, and how apropos it is that we should finish looking at love through the lens of generosity, the lens of givingness. So it brings us back to the very beginning, and as it is stated in our textbook, spirit, life, love is the givingness of life back onto itself. And so this week we're asked to look at ourselves as that givingness of life back onto itself, and to look at ourselves with regard to how generous we are indeed in the way we show up every day, every moment in every day, and how we are. I just come back from a week's convention, our annual convention in Denver, an international convention where people gather from all over the world, from the Ukraine to many countries in Europe to South America and so on, Canada and all of that. All under the common banner of understanding what our legacy and what our vision is. That was the topic, the legacy and the vision. And when I was pondering that very deeply, because I was presenting on that very subject under What Now? And so I was thinking, well, our legacy reduces itself down to one and only thing, and there is only one legacy in the whole of creation and for each and every one of us, and it's the only legacy we may be concerned about, and that is the legacy of love. That is the legacy of love. We inherited that the moment we came into being. Because we're of the nature of our Creator. We're made in its image, we're made in its likeness, and we are its nature, we are its essence. All of what it is available to us, and we were endowed with that, which brings us back to generosity and the givingness of spirit itself. God so loved the creation, the world that God made, that God poured itself out into all of it, in all of its fullness, in all of its completeness, held nothing back, all was given. Everything was made available to us. This cosmic power that's wrapped up in a cosmic consciousness is what we came into, what we came from, and are of the essence. And love, Ernest Holmes says, is the business of nature. Love is the business of nature. And within that idea and understanding of love is our opportunity to give. So all of that has to simmer down into what does that mean for you and what does that mean for me now? Because in spite of the fact that the good Dr. Ernest Holmes says, he says, you find me 1,000 people who so understand, who so know and use the principles of science of mind and spirit, and you will allow me to see a new world, a new heaven, and a new earth. That's what will happen when these 1,000 come together in consciousness to know the truth that sets us all free. And he goes on to say, and should we manage to come into the awareness of these cosmic principles and apply them and use them, he says, well, any one of us can, if we want a dime, but I'd say at least $1, if we want a dime, we can manifest a dime. And then he says, if we want a healing, we certainly can manifest a healing if we are in pain. But he said further than that, more than that, there is more. You and I can actually enter into the portals of through the portal of love and understanding into the sense and sensibility that the Master Teacher Jesus talks about when he says, seek ye first the kingdom and all its righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. He says we will enter into that tabernacle of the Almighty, the temple of the living God, and we will dine at the banquet of heaven itself. In other words, everything will be realized by means of you and me. It's all given to us. The language may be biblical, the language may be theological, the language may be whatever, because everything has its language, math, science, cooking, whatever. But it all reduces itself down and simmers down to the same one thing. Everything is because of love. Nothing happened except because of love. That's how we came in. That's how everything was created, because the divine design for us came out of the Spirit itself contemplating upon itself and choosing to know itself in form by means of you and me. Go figure. So God so loved the world that God poured everything it had into the world. Everything. God so loved you that God entered into you to know itself by means of you, with all of that fullness available to you and to me. Now that's all you and I have to discover. That is why we are here. We're here to discover that. And until we do, we're not going to have a moment's peace that will remain with us. We'll always know there's something missing and there is more. You have made us for yourselves, O Lord, and our hearts cannot find rest until they rest in you, said Augustine a long time ago, and it still remains the same today. Ovid, a whole longer time ago, said, you know, when you discover that the universe is a safe place to be, and you understand the infinite intelligence behind it, he said, life can come pouring and flooding and shining through all that you are. And you've been caught up in the part of all of that as all of that. This is nothing new. And you hear it over and over again, and so do I. But then you're saying to me, yes, but you know what, Dr. Moira? I mean, really, when I went to bed last night, I couldn't sleep. I had so many worries and concerns. Some of you might even say I cried myself to sleep last night. And some of you might say, you know what, I'm beyond it because I don't know how to make sense of any of it. And my life is going to hell in a handbasket right now. And that's all very well and good. And I hear what you're saying. But my reality is, no, that's not your reality. It's your actuality. Your reality is that you are none of all of that. You're none of your circumstances. You are none of that. You are so much more than that. And the problem is always the same problem: over-identification with the humanity of ourselves and not enough identification with the true essence of ourselves. The true essence of ourselves. So, when ego meets ego, there's a clash very often, and we want to say, okay, let's fight. See? But when I'm identified with my true identity, my spiritual identity, it's my spirit is meeting your spirit, and when that happens, we say, let's love each other. There is a big difference. So as long as ego is in charge, and don't misunderstand, ego is a very beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing, but it's not the biggest part of us. It's not at all. It's the child of us. And it needs to be kept in balance, and it needs to be nurtured, and it needs to be nourished for that to happen. The true essence of us and the superior power within us comes from the spirit, the essence of our lives. And that's the greatest part of ourselves. And so we need to be focused on that as well as our ego. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and render to spirit the things that are spirit's. The great ones all knew this, and they did it. I mean, they played the game of life on planet Earth, and they rendered to Caesar the things that were Caesar's. But they also lived the life of spirit, rendering to spirit the things that were spirit's. But not a spirit up there, not a God out there, not something somewhere apart and separate from ourselves, but the very essence of the life force of being right within ourselves. We spent a week singing, I am the space where God is, living and moving and having its being. I am the state where God shows up. I'm the place where God shows up. I am the being within which God shows up. And there is none other. There is no other gods before me, it's written. There's only the one thing, the one life, the one energy, and the one essence. And it's what you are. It's who you are. Imagine that. Now, how often in the day do you remember that? How often in the day do you contemplate that? How identified are you with the true essence of your being? Because if you are, you will know intuitively the way for you to think and to feel and to be and to choose and to decide. And in all of that, your life will blossom and your life will flourish and your life will thrive. And nothing will disturb you and nothing will frighten you, as the great Saint Teresa said, because God never changes. Alone God suffices. And patience, she says, gains all things. So where are we with understanding ourselves as these emanations of spirit? Are we aware of all of that energy flooding into us, flooding through us, and flowing out from us? Because we must not forget we are the inlet as well as the outlet to the state of wholeness and completeness and fullness of being. It's all the time available to us. The question is, are you available to it? Am I available to it? And do we allow the flow to have its completion? It flows in and it's supposed to flow out. It flows in and it's supposed to flow out. I'm the inlet to the outlet of the divine emanations of spirit that is always within me, around me, about me, above me, and below me. I can't get away from it whether I like it or not. So like it or lump it, you are the outward formed sign of inward splendor. That's what you are. Now, a lot of people will delight in telling you who you are, and it's not that definition, I can tell you. But you have to tell yourself this yourself. I am the space where God shows up. I am the space where God... Say it. I am the space where God... No, say it like you mean it. I am the space where God shows up. Now, the question for our egos is, are we?
Yes.
Are we aware of that?
Yes.
And do we indeed show up as our godly selves?
Yes.
Not always is the honest answer, as somebody said here. Not always. Far from it, I would say. Far from it. Far from that understanding, because we would be fearless if that was so. We wouldn't have a bother on us if that was so. Nothing would disturb us and nothing would frighten us. Nothing, if we were showing up as the true essence of our being and as what we are created to be and ordained to be and called to be. The good Dr. Ernest Holmes says that, and all of us are practitioners in life, all of us think, all of us feel, therefore all of us are creative, therefore all of us are practitioners in life. We think and we feel. We live in mind. That's where we live. We live in mind, and our thoughts control our lives. Now, Ernest Holmes did say a very interesting thing too. He said, remember this. If you are controlled by world opinion, that is what you will demonstrate. If you are controlled by world opinion, that is what you will demonstrate. This is a timely thing for us to remember right here and right now. So what? Who is controlling your mind? Who's in your thoughts? What's in your thoughts that sink down into your feelings? What or who is that? What are we choosing to entertain? Remember, all power has been given to us. We are told all power, all power, all power. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So what's going on in the mind of us? What's going on in the feeling nature of us? What way does that show up in the way we behave ourselves? Well, the way you behave yourselves and the way you show up, and me too, will tell us what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And maybe, just maybe, throughout our day, we need to readjust a little bit where we fall asleep and go into separation from the true essence of what it is we are. Now, this has a practical always outcome. When you and I get an aha moment, it means that I'm supposed to change in some way because of that. And remember what we're committed to since December. We're committed to creating one tiny little change in our lives every single day that will make a difference. A good difference. We're committed to never missing an opportunity to keep our mouths shut. we're committed to stop being offended. That's what we committed to in December. I don't know how we're all doing with that. But it's an ongoing thing. It'll never stop being a challenge for us all. And none of those things are easy. If they were easy, the world would be a different place. So what's going on in your mind? Remember, all is love and all is law. Love makes the way possible, and law shows us how to get to where we want to be with all of that. All is love and all is law. Thank God for law, because law is what really keeps us on the straight and narrow. And law only means for us, am I living in accordance with love's principle, love's nature, love's essence? That's all. It asks us, we're told, if we are obedient to the law, all good is ours. Obedient is not a good word for any one of us because we don't like it, really. There's not one in this room that doesn't resist that word in some way or another, or has in the past. But obedient justly, in our way of thinking, means in compliance with, in accordance with, along with the nature of. That's what it means. Am I working with the law or against the law? So love brings us always back to mindfulness. Mindfulness brings us back to being in control of our thinking, our consciousness. And then that flows out into our life and should show up as change. We come here together for a higher purpose than maybe we might have going anywhere else. We come here together to recognize each other. We come here together to be the best of ourselves with each other. We come here together to serve from the best of ourselves with each other. We come here together to be in communion with each other, unified with each other, at one with each other. Here, showing up to serve each other with respect, honoring and understanding that right where each one is, God is, and we're acknowledging that. We come here to be transformed by our communion, by our being together, coming into a safe environment, And within a safe environment, there's only love. That's all. And when I speak and when you speak, we can ask ourselves, am I speaking the language of love? Am I feeling the feeling of love? Am I behaving as love might behave? How am I showing up? Because this is the space where God shows up. Or is it? We have to ask ourselves that over and over and over again. So I say to anyone who is in a challenging situation right now, be of good cheer, because this too shall pass. This too shall pass. If you trust the flow of your life, if you trust the creative process of your life, if you relax it, if you release it, and you let go of all the angst, if you could just do that, if I could just do that, and depend and rely upon principle. Because Spirit is saying, you know what? You're not doing this. It's not up to you. Hand it up. Give it over to me. Just release it. Take your fists off it. Release it. Let it go. Give it to me. And I will demonstrate for you the good that you desire. Now get out of the way. Get out of the way. And let life be what it can be for, in, and through you. And it will show up. Now, it takes a great deal of faith and trust for us all to be that relaxed, released, and let go of. And all of the great metaphysicians will say, above all things else, when you're highly challenged, fear not, fear not. Do not worry. Above all, do not worry. Do not go to worry. Do not go to worry. Do not go to worry. But breathe in and breathe out the presence and the power and the essence of infinite intelligent beingness, and trust it. Sink into it and trust it, and know that your good is here for you and you're supposed to experience it, and that good is on its way as long as you get out of its way. Because every time you and I get worried, concerned, we're closing ourselves, we're clenching ourselves, we're stopping and blocking our flow. And that's what happens. So the more you and I can relax, release, let go, and let life be life by means of you, showing up by means of you, in that trust, in that understanding that right where I am, everything I need is. And this too is passing, whatever it is, this too is passing. Now, love, again, is the only emphasis and the only thing that matters. And I will leave you with this little short story that's true. She was very great amongst us, this great woman. And she was in a public situation one day, and a young man was having, to say the least, a conniption, a fit. He was out of control, and he was ranting and raving and cussing up a storm and all of that. And it was making everybody around uncomfortable, and nobody knew what to do. And she, with her walk of a queen, just walked up to this young man. She put her arm around his shoulder and she said, "Son, you are loved. We have come before you and we have made a place for you. It's your place. And we are depending and relying upon you to take that place. You are loved." Embracing the young man. The young man was Tupac Shakur, and the lady was Maya Angelou. There's a lesson to be learned from that great soul. Many lessons. She's a great teacher. Now, how do you and I respond in a situation like that? She reminded him of who he was and of his place, and those who had gone before him to prepare the way for that place, that sacred place that only he could stand in and take, and the reliance upon him to move it ahead and do likewise for others. Have you taken your place yet, is my question. Have you come home to yourself yet, is my question. Coming home to that inner state of being which brings you back to your true self. For the heart awaits. The heart awaits. And the heart of the divine lives within us, and within that is our home, our state, our place. Have we taken it yet? Have we taken it yet? Have you come home to yourself yet? Do you know yourself in that place? Because it's the only place you can truly know yourself. And that means we have to come home to ourselves very often. And to come home to ourselves very often, we have to take time out from the busyness of the embodiment and the egoic rantings of mind. And we have to get still, and we have to get quiet, and we have to do nothing but listen. And what takes us into listening is to practice the breath, being one with the breath, breathing in and breathing out, and nothing else. Just that focus alone is going to take you to places you've never imagined. Just focusing on the breath. Breathing in through the earth, right up through your feet, right up to your head, circling that down again back into your body, circling it up again from your feet. That's the only concentration you need to have, and delighting in the understanding and in the awareness that that breath is the breath of life, and it's everywhere present, and you're breathing in the whole of life. As you breathe in, all of it, all of it, all of it. It's beyond cosmos. It's more than that. You're breathing that in and you are breathing that out. It's the inlet and you are its outlet. So breathe in the blessing. Breathe in your breath as a blessing and breathe it out as a blessing. In as a blessing and out as a blessing. And I'm telling you, life will be changed, and changed for the better. And if we're not changing, this is where we are. Oh, we're moving and we're busy and we're very running, and so on. But all we're doing is digging a hole, and we're going down into the basement instead of spiraling up into the penthouse that awaits us. See? So, just watch it this week and ask yourself, how am I as God showing up in my life and in my world? Am I being everything that I can be? Because the best is always yet to be, and the best is always being uncovered. So I leave you with what I'm tending to leave you with now, because we're living in acute times, and time is very short. It doesn't matter how long you're on this planet, it's very, very short. And we need to have a sense of urgency about ourselves in these days. And this is the urgency, that you and I wake up into this realization that each one, you are a point of power through which the infinite expresses itself in all of its radiant magnificence. All of it, nothing kept back, all of it is available to you. All of the goodness in life is available to you, and the question is, are you ready now to be the space where God shows up? Are you ready now?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Good, you got the answer right, and so it is. I think it's going to be a great week in the kingdom today. It'll be a good week in the neighborhood today. Okay, we're going to have a little sharing.